That theme song just hit you like a tenkuken to the chest, didn't it? Here's something that'll blow your mind. One government actually banned this show before fans could see how it ended, and the fallout changed a country's cultural history forever. 11 wild facts about Voltes 5. Let's volt in. And if vintage giant robot history with real stories behind the steel is your thing, subscribe to get the next one the day it drops.
Mom, we're not robots nor infants anymore. It would put our minds at ease if you'd at least tell us why we're here away from all our friends.
Number 10. They didn't just defend Earth. They invaded an alien planet. Most robot shows kept things simple. Monsters attack. Heroes punch monsters. Roll credits. Voltes 5 had other plans. While the early episodes followed a familiar Earth defense formula, 5 kids, 5 machines, weekly beast fighter threat neutralized, the series eventually shifted gears into something genuinely ambitious. The Voltes team packed up, left Earth entirely, and flew straight into the heart of the Boazanian homeworld to spark a full-scale revolution among the Empire's enslaved population. Think about that for a second. In 1977, a Saturday morning robot show decided its ending arc would be an intergalactic liberation movement. That's not a cartoon premise. That's a geopolitical thriller wearing a robot suit. The mission transformed from keep the aliens out to tear down the alien empire from the inside. That escalation gave the show a narrative weight that most of its contemporaries never even attempted, and it made every earlier episode feel like setup for something genuinely epic. Keep fact 8 in mind as we get to the bottom of this list, because why the team went to Boazan makes a whole lot more sense once you understand what life was actually like under Emperor Zhu Zanbajil's rule.
All 5 of you will power it to victory.
I get to control it too? Yes.
Number 9. Monsters of the Week. Custom built to destroy you. Every great robot show needs a great monster rotation. Voltes 5 delivered. The Beast Fighters were the Boazanian Empire's primary weapons. Giant mechanical monsters deployed one by one against the Voltes team. Each one engineered with unique weapons, unique abilities, and a unique strategy for making the heroes' lives miserable. No two were alike, which meant the team couldn't just run the same playbook every episode. That design philosophy kept the show fresh across its entire run. Each new beast fighter was essentially a puzzle the team had to solve under pressure, which gave the writers room to showcase different team members' strengths in different situations. It also meant the animators had to design an entirely new monster for nearly every episode, a workload that would make modern production teams weep quietly into their coffee. The variety paid off for audiences though, because no 2 weeks ever felt exactly the same. Think of them as the Boazanian Empire's version of a custom weapons program. Except instead of a defense contractor, you had a royal family with unlimited resources, a grudge, and a lot of free time.
Over 3 million people have perished in separate bombings in Italy.
Number 8. The caste system that made the whole war make sense. Here's a detail casual fans often forget, and it reframes everything once you know it. The Boazanian Empire wasn't just a generic alien invasion force. It ran on a rigid, brutal caste system. Boazanians born with horns were nobility, privileged, powerful, treated as superior beings. Boazanians born without horns? Slaves. Treated as subhuman, denied rights, denied dignity, relegated to the absolute bottom of the social order with no path upward. That single world-building detail transformed Voltes 5 from a simple robots versus aliens show into something with actual moral stakes. The hornless Boazanians didn't love the Empire any more than Earth did. They were prisoners inside it. When the Voltes team eventually arrived on Boazan looking for allies, they found an entire oppressed population ready to fight back. It also made the show's themes land with unusual weight for a kids program. The rebellion wasn't just about stopping an invasion. It was about dismantling a system built on inherited superiority. More on why that particular theme hit especially hard in one specific country, coming up very shortly.
We've been confined in this base for training almost every day for this past year. What's the reason for all these?
Number 7. Prince Heinel, the villain who was more complicated than he looked. Every great hero needs a great villain. Voltes 5 gave us Prince Heinel, and then made sure you'd feel genuinely conflicted about him. Known as Prince Zardoz in some international versions, Heinel was the Boazanian Empire's primary antagonist on Earth. Proud, relentless, driven by fierce loyalty to the Emperor, and a deep contempt for both Earthlings and hornless Boazanians. On the surface, he was everything a good Saturday morning villain should be: imposing, ruthless, and elegantly dressed. Then the show started pulling back the curtain on his backstory, and things got complicated. Heinel harbored hatred, partly born from his own unresolved identity, and he remained completely unaware of a family connection to the Voltes team's leader, that would have rewritten his entire worldview. The show kept that secret buried like a grenade with the pin still in it. He wasn't just an obstacle. He was a character whose tragedy stemmed from never knowing the truth about himself. We'll circle back to exactly what that truth was, and trust me, it lands harder than a Tenkuken strike.
She's isolated her 3 children from the world in a special training base where anyone gets shot for trying to escape.
Number 6. 5 machines, 5 jobs, 0 redundancy. The engineering nerd in you is going to appreciate this one. Voltus 5 wasn't a single giant robot that occasionally split into pieces for dramatic effect. It was 5 completely independent Volt machines: the cruiser, bomber, panzer, lander, and frigate, each designed to operate on its own, with distinct weapons, distinct capabilities, and a distinct role on the battlefield. They just also happened to combine into one of the most recognizable super robots in anime history. That modular design philosophy gave the writers enormous flexibility. Individual machines could be deployed on separate missions, put at risk, or take damage in ways that created genuine tension without immediately ending the fight. Lose one component, and suddenly, you're running at reduced capacity, or you can't combine at all. For 1977 animation, the mechanical design work required to make 5 vehicles each feel purpose-built and functional was genuinely impressive. The production team clearly did the homework. Think of it as the animated equivalent of a Swiss Army knife, if the Swiss Army knife also had a laser sword and occasionally saved the entire planet.
Power chain knuckle activated! Fire!
Number 5. The father who was actually a king in disguise. Strap in. This one changes the whole picture. Professor Kentaro Go, the brilliant scientist who built the Volt machines and fathered 3 members of the Voltes team, wasn't actually just a brilliant scientist. He was a Boazanian royal. Specifically, he was King Lagur, a member of the hornless Boazanian nobility who had surgically removed his own horns, fled to Earth, built a new life, raised a family, and quietly spent years engineering the exact weapon system needed to fight back against his own empire. The horns detail matters here. On Boazan, horns weren't decorative. They were your entire social identity. Lagur had his removed, which in the Empire's caste logic made him effectively a non-person. He chose that status deliberately, walked away from royalty, and poured everything into giving his children a chance to finish what he started. That context reframes every scene with the Go brothers. They weren't just talented kids who got drafted into a robot war. They were heirs to a revolution their father had been planning since before they were born. It also reframes Prince Heinel, but we'll get to that.
Hey, this is tremendous! It's amazing this huge robot was built!
Number 4. Let's Volt In, the sequence that launched a million rewatches. Ask any fan what they remember first, and 9 times out of 10, they'll start humming before they finish the sentence. The Volt in combining sequence, where all 5 machines synchronized, locked, and assembled into Voltus 5, was the show's signature spectacle, and the production team treated it with the seriousness it deserved. The animation was highly detailed, mechanically specific, and carefully consistent. Every component slot, every locking mechanism, every transition had to match across episodes, which required meticulous frame-by-frame work at a time when everything was hand-drawn. The command, "Let's Volt In," became one of the most quoted lines in anime history among fans of a certain generation. It wasn't just a catchphrase. It was a Pavlovian trigger. Hear those words, feel the anticipation. For kids watching in the 1970s, that sequence was the payoff they came back every week to see. It delivered every single time. Decades later, the Voltus 5 Legacy live-action Filipino series would recreate that sequence for modern audiences, which tells you exactly how much it still means to people who grew up on the original.
Mark, you'll fly number 2.
Roger.
Steve, you operate number 1. Big Bert, number 3.
Number 3. Jamie Robinson, the sharpshooter who kept the team sane. 5 pilots, 1 team, and one of them was consistently the most composed person in any given crisis. Nagumi Oka, known internationally as Jamie Robinson in many dubbed versions, was the sole female pilot of Voltus 5, and the show took her seriously in every dimension that mattered. She was a trained martial artist and a skilled sharpshooter, capable of holding her own in any engagement the team faced. But what made her genuinely stand out was her emotional intelligence in a group that regularly threatened to implode from its own hot-headedness. When the Go brothers were charging forward on instinct and the team's dynamic started fraying under pressure, Jamie was typically the anchor. That balance, competence plus composure, made her an audience favorite across every market where the show aired. She wasn't defined by being the one female pilot. She was defined by being the one pilot least likely to do something reckless, and most likely to have already thought 3 moves ahead. Given what Kenichi Go's temper could produce on a bad day, that was a genuinely critical team function.
The moment for you to find that out is now. The whole world is now under threat of...
Number 2. Kenichi Go and the laser sword that ended every argument. The signature move of any iconic robot show tells you everything about its philosophy. Voltes 5 chose a sword. Kenichi Go, eldest of the Go brothers, pilot of the Volt Cruiser, and the team's designated leader, despite a temperament that occasionally suggested otherwise, was the one who triggered the Tenkuken, the laser sword that served as Voltes 5's ultimate finishing weapon. When the Beast Fighter was down but not out, when nothing else had finished the job, Kenichi called for the blade. The Tenkuken became the signature image of the show, that single raised weapon, that moment of commitment before the final strike. It crystallized everything the series stood for. One decisive blow after a hard-fought battle, earned rather than handed. Kenichi was passionate, stubborn, and occasionally his own worst enemy. Classic hero material. But when the moment required total conviction, he never hesitated. The combination of a flawed leader and a clean finishing weapon gave the show a satisfying visual grammar. You always knew when it was over. The sword came out, and it was over.
Defense has just been attacked! Our UFO fighters can't stop the flying saucers!
Bonus fact, the revolution they never saw coming. Boazan falls. Hold on before we get to number 1, because this ending deserves its own moment. The finale of Voltes 5 delivered on every promise the show had been making since episode 1. The Voltes team, fighting alongside the hornless Boazanian slaves, overthrew Emperor Zu Zanbajil and dismantled the Empire's power structure in a climactic revolution that paid off seasons of built-up tension. The hornless people, the ones the Empire had always treated as less than human, stood up and helped determine their own future. It was earned. Every episode of Beast Fighter Combat, every sacrifice, every piece of the Go family's fractured history pointed toward this conclusion. But the victory came with genuine cost. Prince Heinel died in battle, never having fully processed the truth about his own origins, never having reconciled who he was with who he could have been. The peace was real, but it wasn't clean. Voltes 5 didn't wrap its revolution in a tidy bow. It said, freedom is worth the price. And the price is real. For a 1977 super robot show, that's a remarkably mature final statement. Number 1. The band that made a country fall in love forever. And here it is, the fact that turned a popular cartoon into a cultural legend. In 1979, Voltes 5 was airing in the Philippines and absolutely dominating its time slot. Audiences were invested, kids and adults alike. And the final story arc, the revolution on Boazan, was building toward its conclusion. Then the government of Ferdinand Marcos ordered the show pulled from the air. Officially, the reason given was excessive violence. Almost no one believed that. The Philippines at that time was under martial law. Marcos had suspended democratic institutions, consolidated personal power, and made political opposition genuinely dangerous. The show's central narrative, a small team of heroes fighting to overthrow a tyrannical empire while liberating an oppressed people from a rigid caste system, was not subtle allegory. Filipino audiences weren't just watching a robot punch monsters. They were watching a story about resistance, about inherited injustice, and about the possibility that an entrenched regime could actually be brought down. Banning it before the final episodes aired meant the government specifically didn't want audiences to see the empire fall. The public outcry was immediate and fierce. The ban became a cultural flashpoint, proof that a children's television program had struck a nerve deep enough to frighten people in power. The show didn't just survive the controversy, it was elevated by it. Generations of Filipinos grew up with Voltes 5 as more than nostalgia. It became a symbol of what stories can mean when they tell the truth about power. When the live-action Voltes 5 Legacy premiered in 2023, the country showed up in enormous numbers. Because they remembered, not just the robot, the reason the robot mattered. Voltes 5 was never just a robot show. 5 machines, 5 pilots, 1 sword, and a story that turned out to be about family secrets, alien-class warfare, and whether ordinary people could dismantle a system built to oppress them. All delivered weekly in 1977 with hand-drawn animation and a theme song you still remember. The Beast Fighters were the threat. The Boazanian caste system was the real villain. And the ban, that government-ordered silence right before the ending, accidentally made the show immortal. So here's the question for the comments. Which one got you? The royal disguise hiding in plain sight as a scientist? Or the fact that someone in an actual government watched this cartoon, recognized what it was really saying, and decided that was dangerous enough to shut down? Let us know below.